A year or two ago, my 90-year-old grandmother broke her back while trimming bushes. Not realizing what had happened, she got back up and kept going. This is the kind of woman we are dealing with. Welcome back to Domestically Feral. If this is your kind of chaos, follow along. We ride at dawn. Bring coffee. A year or two ago, my grandmother was outside helping my dad trim her bushes. She was holding the branches while he cut them. And then he made a cut that she didn't expect and was thrown to the ground. But she got back up because the bushes still needed trimming, so as far as she was concerned, the work wasn't finished. What nobody realized at the time was that she had broken her back. She kept going for about a month before she couldn't take the pain anymore, and then she finally decided she needs some answers. By the time anyone thought to mention any of this to me, she was in physical therapy. Nobody called or texted me. I found out through a note she sent me in the mail, casually mentioning it. I broke my back. I'm in physical therapy. After making a quick phone call to her to make sure she was okay, I texted my dad and my uncle immediately. Okay, which of you stepped on a crack? In true brother fashion. My uncle wasted no time in throwing my dad under the bus. Your dad did it. Toughness by itself can sound cold, but my grandmother is not cold. She's loving and present, and she tells you the truth. And if the truth needs a little edge to make sure you heard her correctly, she's going to do it. Her mind is still sharp enough to remember things I've already forgotten that I told her. She asks about my daughter's ballet lessons. She remembers that Piper started reading Harry Potter, which is a detail I mentioned to her once in passing several months ago. Meanwhile, I can't remember why I walked into the kitchen. She's always paid attention and supported every art project I brought home like it belonged in a gallery. She was always showing up with books for me and my sister to read. And when she asked what I was doing, she genuinely wanted to know. She wasn't being polite. She was actually interested in my life. She was always paying attention. And it's about time I started paying attention to her. My grandmother just got out of the hospital. She had a frightening reaction to medication, and for a while she was not doing so well. It was bad enough that my dad and my uncle were convinced that she wasn't going to make it through the night. I kept telling them, I'm coming to see her. And they all kept saying, no, you need to wait. Let her rest. We'll handle it. Then my brother called and told me she'd been asking when I was coming to see her. And that was it. I stopped listening to everyone telling me to wait, and I went anyway. She looked tired, and I could tell that she lost a little bit of weight. But her color was still good. And underneath everything that had happened, she still looked like herself. Because my grandmother does not go down easy. She has also always loved cats. I think that's probably where I get it from. When I was little, she had a fluffy black and white cat named Matthias that my Uncle Brett brought home one day. I still remember the way she talked to him. It was almost a purr of her own. Yes, sir, she would say, petting him as he loved all over her. She has 2 cats now, Whiskers and Tubby. They're strictly outdoor and extremely feral, but she feeds them anyway. And according to my dad, she babies them, the same way I do mine. So seeing her in a hospital was hard, because my mind doesn't put her there. She's always been outside, picking up sticks out of her yard. hauling trash cans up and down that steep driveway of hers, walking it every day to check the mail, and sending notes and newspaper clippings to people she loves, dropping into a squat like it's nothing and then popping right back up. Since she came home from the hospital, my sister has been helping her with physical therapy. And for context, my grandmother has spent the last couple of years being my grandfather's primary caregiver. She's not used to being on the receiving end of anything. So, when Granddaddy told her to lift her leg, she muttered under her breath, just loud enough for everybody to hear her, "Look who's talking." You do not verbally spar with my grandmother unless you are prepared to lose. Then my sister FaceTimed me after one of her therapy sessions. My grandmother was sitting on the call, calmly feeding herself a generous helping of Mississippi mud pie. I was extremely encouraged to see this, and that's when she informed me that my sister was trying to kill her as she was eating her dessert. So, recovery appears to be going well. My sister texted me a photo this morning. The two of them were together having coffee on my grandmother's patio. And here I was, 3 hours away, drinking my own cup alone, wishing I was with them. Phone calls and pictures are all well and good, but eventually I'm going back to visit her and see this improvement in person. She doesn't remember me visiting her in the hospital. She was confused and, like I said, having a hard time communicating. It was difficult to understand what she was saying, but she knew I was there at the time. And as usual, she wasn't thinking of herself. During the visit, she looked straight into my eyes and asked me, "Who is feeding my kitties?" And despite how hard it was for her to speak, she gave me the full instructions. "Feed this to Tubby. Whiskers eats that. This is the can that you put into their bowl, and this is how much." Complete with shaky hand gestures, just to make sure I understood. That's when I knew whatever else was happening, whatever that hospital stay had taken out of her, that part hadn't changed. I knew she had a real chance of getting out of that hospital bed. Her body and her voice were weak, but she was still my grandmother. And she was still making sure someone was feeding her kitties properly.